My pleasure to welcome back the mayor of Laramie. Joe Shumway is in studio with me this morning. It's been a couple months since we first talked back in February, and I thought things went well with Vice Mayor Pat Gabriel, but glad to have you back. How's it been going in the last couple months?
Well, obviously there's a lot going on. You know, we have some things that are exciting, some things that are just work, but it's been going great.
All right, well, with this busy time, first and foremost, what's the biggest issue that you feel right now that the council's trying to attack?
Well, one of the hot issues that we dealt with this week was on the March 19th meeting, we voted not to send an application for the Wyoming Association of Municipalities Summer Conference in 2020. And there was a front page article saying, you know, that we were thinking about moving away from WAM, which brought a lot of interest from the community, a lot of the hotels, a lot of the downtown, and then tourism and that. And so we really attacked that and came back and brought more information to the council. The vote on the 27th or on the 19th of March was 4-4, which defeated the application for the summer conference. This time we brought back the issue, and it was voted again on the 2nd, which was Tuesday, 7-1 vote, or actually it was an 8-1 vote.
Okay.
With only one person objecting, and so that passed, and we've already sent our application off to them. They extended the deadline not only for the city of Laramie but for everyone, and so we have a great application with the potential of bringing in 350 people and their families from the 99 communities all over the state to Laramie, and it'll be a great event. I'm going this coming Monday to meet with the Wyoming Association of Municipalities, try to mend some fences with them, and I think do some damage control, because they are a very important part of what we can accomplish as a city council, as our lobbyist with the state legislature. So that's been the hot issue. We had other things that we did too with some proposed resolutions that we sent forward to them, which I'd like to cover if you have time.
Oh yeah, we got plenty of time. I was curious as to, were you surprised by the reaction, or maybe even more so surprised by the vote being 4-4 the first time and then turning around and going 8-1 the second time?
I was surprised about the first vote.
Okay.
What I anticipated was that because of the economic benefit to the community, that would have a lot of support. So I was very surprised with that. Also disappointed, in that we didn't deal with the subject concerning the Wyoming Association of Municipalities outside of the council chambers. But now that that's over, they've got our, we have their attention. They realize that there's some issues that we want to talk about. So on Monday, when I go over to Torrington to talk to them, to the new executive director, who is J. David Frazier, we'll cover that, and I think that we'll be able to make some progress there also. Because
essentially it sounds like folks may be more educated on the council from vote 1 to vote 2, right, which is why the change?
There was a lot of emails, phone calls, discussions from people within the community asking us to reconsider and to look at this. The day after the vote, I was on the phone with the Wyoming Association of Municipalities former director, executive director Rick Kaysen, who was the mayor of Cheyenne for many years.
Right.
Talking to him, saying that we were going to do our best, to try to, educate them. They offered to bring into us a work session where they would, and sometime in June, July, we'll have that work session, and they will bring to us the benefits that they bring to the city of Laramie, and we're going to talk to them about things that we have interest in them considering also.
Okay, all right, so that's one big thing. I know one thing that Pat and I talked about last month, Vice Mayor Pat Gabriel and I, we talked about it, and I know it's been a hot button topic in the community, is what's going on with the alcohol ordinance and things like that. Where are we at in that process? What kind of steps are we taking here?
Yeah, there was an ad hoc committee that was formed. I served on the first ad hoc committee that we had to review and look at the possible points system that they had and changes that may be necessary for this. They concluded 9 meetings that they had starting, I believe it was in September, and they ended that in February, brought a report to us. It was brought before the council. We have items that we're going to be considering for that. I will say this, on Tuesday, every one of the alcohol, restaurant, and full liquor license were up for renewal. Every one of them passed without any concerns, and so that part is good. We don't have people that are, that we have serious concerns about, but we're looking at things that we can do to improve on our alcohol within the city.
Well, let me ask you this, because I've seen this reaction on social media, so this necessarily isn't coming from me, but kind of maybe a perspective of why is the university telling the city what to do? I've seen that question often, because it sounds like the university may have approached the city council about maybe looking into this issue, but some people sit here, and I think you've probably heard this, that the university runs the city and things like that, but I guess when they asked you guys to look at this issue, what was that conversation like, and why do you feel and the council feel that it's important to look at this, and why you went through these meetings going back to September, do you feel?
Well, the university has been very active in making sure that they bring in all the freshman class and give them some important training and information that they want them to have. They're not the only group that brought this forward. This is something that we have decided that every 2 or 3 years we would, it's an ad hoc committee, so it serves, and once it's completed the task, then it's inactive for a while until we bring it back.
Okay.
But there's broad participation from all over the community on this, and so I think that the university had a very good interest in that, mostly because now they've gone into a new portion of alcohol at the stadium and at the auditorium arena, and they want to just kind of review that and see how that was going. But they brought some good ideas and a lot of participation, and so everyone worked well together, and I think it was driven by the community more than by the council.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to provide a perspective. I was just curious about that. All right, so what else do we got going on that is important right now?
Well, let me talk about those proposed resolutions. I'll just mention 3 or 4. One is we have asked the state to once again take a look at the anti-discrimination legislation statewide.
Okay.
And that hasn't got a lot of traction yet. Another thing we asked for them to consider, and I don't know how much interest the state legislature has, but many states all across the United States have what they call PILT, tax payment. What PILT is, payment in lieu of taxes, where they have some money designated for communities like Laramie, where they have state government buildings or whatever that are tax exempt. Now, all over the state, there's places like the Wyoming State Hospital, the state prison, University of Wyoming, and also the junior colleges, Warren Air Force Base, like that really add nothing to the tax base for a community, but they create a lot of expense for each one of those communities. And so we're looking for PILT, payment in lieu of tax, consideration, so that we can have some means for them to compensate cities for that. That has been a no-go. We'll keep it on the forefront, have them consider that again.
Well, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, the university is a big part of this town, but you don't get any tax revenue from that portion, which then hurts your kind of bottom line budget. It
does. Well, as as many people know, over the last 10 years, $1 billion has been invested from the state into the building program at the University of Wyoming. Now they're adding another $300 million with the reconstruction of the student dorms. So it's a huge expense, and it's a big impact on the city, not only for our fire department, water department, but also for our landfill. Once those dorms, if they come down, and they probably will, going to our landfill is going to be a huge impact.
Yeah, so where's all that going to go?
We have a lot of expenses, as the university expands and grows. Obviously a great partner, but we have to look at the way that we can finance that through the city.
All right, so what are your other resolutions?
Well, another one we have is there's over $100 million of infrastructure in what we call storm water drainage, and that's coming right now to the general fund. It's been discussed at the state for that to be an enterprise fund, similar to water, sewer, and that, where that money can be treated as a utility bill, and that's one where that $100 million is going to take us years and years and years to ever pull that out of the enterprise fund, unless there's a mechanism for us to do that. Now, one thing, once we get that in, a lot of the flooding and a lot of the problems that we have throughout the communities will be able to be managed by the storm sewer system that we have. So that's been a big thing for us.
Well, yeah, and I just think back to some of the big thunderstorms we have had. I'd say what North 3rd, North 4th are some problem areas that I know that you guys would like to address.
And it's been ongoing for decades.
Yeah,
it's something that we really need to have a solution for.
All right. Anything else resolution-wise?
Well, that's all. There's other resolutions that we had just to honor people and things like that, but nothing I think that I'd like to mention at this time.
All right, we're visiting with Mayor Joe Shumway here on a Thursday, and it's our monthly mayoral series. We kind of go back and forth between Mayor Shumway, and then last month Vice Mayor Pat Gabriel was on. He'll be back in May. Did have a couple of residents who had a couple questions for you. One resident wanted me to ask about since the stoplights have come down at 4th and Clark there, what's going on with the yellow paint and the parking issues there, because this person was saying, you know, what do you think? What is the council talking about? And is this, because there's some concerned residents and concerned businesses in that area with all the yellow paint that's still around there. Is that something that the council can address or is looking at addressing?
It's something I have a lot of interest in. Let me just mention this. I have a meeting with Pat Gabriel and also Brian Schuster with our city attorney on Tuesday. We're going to meet before our work session to talk about just that. Now that's not the only area where, I mean, you know, 4th and Clark also there's concern about, I think, 17th and Reynolds. Also, we went through a lot of concern on the Garfield between 30th and Boulder. That it just continually comes forward, and so we're going to sit down and find something that is friendly towards the businesses, to the community, but yet, you know, is something that where safety is considered. But it's a big concern, and we want to make sure that we handle this and not ignore it, but deal with it.
So it sounds like you guys are aware, and you just got to go through the steps in the process.
Aware and sympathetic. The concerns that come forward to us, and I think we need to find something that is reasonable. That's yet, you know, something that stays within the guidelines of safety.
Had another resident asked, and they didn't know the answer to this question, and I don't know, so I'll ask you. The dog park that's over there by Aragon Softball Complex, I had a person ask, is that city-owned or university-owned over there, the dog park just north of the softball fields there?
Yeah, we have an agreement with the university to, you know, for all the softball fields in that complex.
Right.
And that's one where we have, you know, just had, it's not really a fancy dog park, it's just enclosed. The one where we put more of our interest in has been at Optimus Park.
Right.
But no, that one we'll continue to look for solutions for, you know, walking dogs and things like that. But
well, the reason why somebody brought it up is they were wondering if there's ever going to be any trees over there, because it sounded like this person likes to take their dog there, but there's no trees. I think there's a little bit more shade over at Optimus. I think you would agree with me on that. And so they're wondering if there were any plans for the city to consider putting trees into that dog park, just, you know, maybe for some shade if the dog wants to exercise, but then, you know, still wants to spend some time kind of loosen off the leash, where they could lay under a tree or two or three or four or something like that. They were asking. It's
a great idea. I have not heard whether or not Parks and Recreation is going to do that. I know they've talked about improving that park. Because it's very bare right now, and we want to make sure that, you know, in the city everything in our parks is first class. So we'll make improvements. Trees is a great idea. I'll bring that forward to Parks and Recreation and see what they can do.
Todd Fieser, if you're listening this morning, that might be a question actually better equipped for Todd. He might actually know more of the answer on that, so I might actually pass that along once I might hopefully sometime soon get email back in my company. Other things that are going on. So we talked about alcohol. Last time you were here, you talked about decisions on the 6-cent tax renewal and what we're doing with the infrastructure. Where are we on that process? Because we are getting close to road construction season in this community. Since you and I talked, I've seen a few more water main breaks under roads. One that was big was out here on South 3rd, but I know there's been a couple other spots. Where are we at in that decision process in terms of applying funds and getting going with some of this infrastructure improvements?
Well, our budget is now underway. And we will have priorities. We'll be, the City Council as a group will select the priorities. There's some that the staff have brought forward that have priority, so we'll consider all those. But we have you know, a lot of money that came from the 6 cent for that, and so that's not only the street improvements but also other infrastructure things. So that will be one that we will have answers to before the end of our budget talks, which will be in May.
Okay. So when we visit next time, because I'll visit with Vice Mayor Pat Gabriel, I'll probably ask him how that's going. But by the time we visit early June again, you'll have some more concrete plans. It sounds like.
Yeah, again, it's a decision by the entire council, so we'll know more then.
Well, I'm sure all of you have priorities, and all the residents in your wards have priorities.
Absolutely.
Everybody wants their street taken care of. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and we want to. You know, we want to focus on the areas that have the most need and the highest priorities, but we'll focus on, you know, places all over the community.
West side of the community, that's always
high priority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have we come to the decision in terms of what type of street paving that they're looking at over there yet?
They have 4 different standards. We have even this last city council meeting we talked about, you know, roadway standards and things like that. We have some experimental things we're working with, but you know, obviously it's an expense that we can't do all in one year. But we have we're doing it, you know, $2 or $3 million additional each year until we think that within 10 years we should have most of the unpaved streets at least improved.
Are there higher? You mentioned there are certain areas that are higher priority. Are there places that the council's already agreed on that we can let the public know of yet, or is it still under consideration?
In theory, we've agreed on it, but until it's formalized, we don't know exactly what the priority list is,
right?
What we'll do first and what we'll accomplish this year. But it's a priority for the council. It's one of our goals for this year is to improve streets.
Any big projects that you know of, Mayor, right off the top of your head, that are coming up that people need to be aware of, that maybe were already, you know, you guys were planning about or didn't quite get to last construction season that we need to be aware of?
One big one, and we're continuing to work on this, will be finished about 2022, is the Public Works building complex that we're working on right now. Obviously that's a huge priority for us so that we can move all of our water, sewer, streets and all that, and recreation out to the old Wyotech.
So out north of town.
Yes,
okay,
just
just south of Cathedral Home and a couple other businesses that are out there. So
Mm-hmm.
so you guys decided to go forward with that and buy that?
We're going. It's already purchased.
Okay.
The contracts are finished. Now we're right now we're in design, and construction will begin on that this year. So bids are going to be going out. That's going to be one thing that this term, the first term I was mayor, my big interest and big project was the recreation center, which obviously was completed. Great addition to the community. It's been needed for many, many years, and now with the Public Works complex, that's the priority for me for construction this year.
Gosh, how long has it been on North 4th where you have streets?
Since the 50s.
Oh, wow. And I know people sit there and go, people will probably second guess the council and you on this by going, well, if it's working now, why can't it work moving forward? But it sounds like there's more issues than maybe people realize.
I wish it were working. Not everything works. We have a lot of heavy equipment that are just out in the open during this harsh winters and things like that. And their life, these are $1 million pieces of equipment that we just can't put underneath, inside. And so there's been a lot of needs, and with the community growing, by 2% each year, we have more and more pressure on us to have more and more capabilities. So that's what we're working towards, and this will give us that opportunity once we move out to our new Public Works facility.
So something that's needed. What type of price tag was that on that? On getting that, do you know?
I don't know the final. I don't think we'll know the final, but right now it's in probably $5 to $10 million range or something there. And
do you feel that's reasonable for something like that?
One thing I will say this is our city manager, Janine Jordan, could have looked at a new, instead of refinish, or what we did is we took the old campus and restructured it to
kind of refurbishing things.
Yeah, and the difference is probably a new facility would have been $25 million in that ballpark for everything that we have under the.
So you're looking at a $15 to $20 million savings.
Yes.
Okay.
And that's because of the foresight of of our city manager on that. And also I think the council was very much involved in making sure, because we don't have the kinds of funds that other communities have, and so we have to be very Spartan, and that's what we've done. And so this is going to be just something that we can really be proud of. We're going to stick with the city standards on this. It's in the county until which point maybe someday it'll move into the city boundaries, but right now it's city everything that we have in code will be included there, including landscaping and all that within the price tag.
Would that be something the city looks at, quote unquote, annexing that land so that it is city property instead of being in the county?
I think so. We don't have waters and sewer out there at this time. There's a need to do that. Once we get those pieces up to standard, then there will probably be a decision then to annex if that's the decision of the everyone there, including all the people that are currently there. If they want to ask us for annexation, it won't be forced. It'll be something that we respond to when they request it.
All right, curious. Anything else before I let you go this morning? Any other big topics people need in the community to be aware of that you guys got coming up?
Well, Dave, I always have lots of things to talk about. Let me just end with a couple of things on parking.
Okay.
I'm meeting with the university. Well, I've already had several meetings with them, but we're meeting again. And one thing I want to do is let you know that we're working well with the university. Lori Nichols has just been absolutely wonderful to work with. We've gone from 2 pages of issues down to where we now have a manageable list of things that we're working on. Also, I think that we're meeting on next Tuesday. We're having a work session with the downtown, historic downtown, and parking, the 3rd Street reconstruction. That's a big issue. We want to make sure that we do that right, so that we don't decrease parking, but we increase parking, and also make accessibility for pedestrians and bicyclists. And then also the reconstruction of Ivanson, which is desperately needed.
Oh.
But there's a we could go on for an hour. There's so many things going on that we're excited about and that need to be done, and so we'll continue to work on this and accomplish as quick as we can.